This is Dave Saltzer from AngelsWin.com speaking today with Angels great Clyde Wright. Clyde, how you doing today?
I'm fine. Everything's beautiful.
You know, part of the joy of coming to an Angels game is getting the chance to hear you spin some tales.
I've got no stories. I've never told a story in my life.
Now, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Santana's no-hitter, because you've thrown a no-hitter.
Right?
What's it like, actually, to go through something amazing like that?
Well, it's the only thing in sports that I can think of that you can use the word I. I threw a no-hitter. You don't have to mention the other players, but you know it takes the other players. In basketball, you can't say that. Football, you can't say it. But when a guy throws a no-hitter, a perfect game in the big league, you say, I threw a no-hitter, and it will stay with you for the rest of your life.
So what are some of the unwritten rules for the players as a pitcher's in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, and they're starting to look at the scoreboard, and they're seeing a big 0 up there?
Well, it changes as, you know, baseball has changed. There's a lot of things that are different now. Back when I threw the no-hitter in 70, nobody would talk to me, right? It looked, it was if I had on bad deodorant or something, or the deodorant wasn't working. I was on one end of the bench, everybody else was on the other end, you know, after the 7th inning. They just didn't want to talk to you. Now, I was watching Santana, and he was, you know, talking to everybody and all that. And to me, it's worse if you're sitting by yourself thinking about it than, you know, trying to talk to somebody. Because you know they're not going to mention it,
Right.
you know. That's one of the rules they don't want to mention.
About what time in the game do people start sort of noticing it? Is it the 4th, the 5th?
No. When you get up to the 7th inning and you haven't given up a hit, you know, you've only got 9 more outs to go, and you start thinking about it. And I think the fans start thinking about it around the 7th inning. Then it just builds up, you know, if you get through the 7th to the 8th, and then the 9th, it's really, you know, build up.
Now, who was catching when you threw your no-hitter?
Joe Askew.
Okay.
He was my catcher. I threw 98 pitches. Joe put down the right fingers 98 times.
I've talked to other guys who've thrown no-hitters, and they always say when it happens, it's like a perfect rhythm between them and the catcher.
Well, the thing about it, I shook Joe off twice out of 98 pitches. And I'm watching Santana, you know, pitch, and Wilson was catching. And it seemed like every sign that Wilson put down is the one that, you know, Santana wanted to throw. And when you get on that, and the pitcher can throw it in the right location, it's fun to do.
After you threw the no-hitter, what did you develop some superstitions? Did you, you know, it's a superstitious game, so what didn't you change? And
I still got superstition. Every night we win, I park in the same spot the next day. You know, and they just stay with you. If you know, lose 2 or 3 in a row, I park in 2 or 3 different places. But when we win, I park in the same place. I parked in the same place tonight as I did last night. You know, it's just crazy things that happen. You never step on a line, right?
Right.
Or a lot of guys wouldn't. We had a guy from Baltimore, Mike Cuellar. He would never take the ball from anybody. I think it was the third baseman, Brooks Robinson.
Right.
He's the only guy that could throw him the baseball. If somebody else threw it to him, he'd duck and get out of the way.
When you saw Santana pitch a complete game again, now that's a rarity these days for a pitcher to do a complete game, let alone 2 back-to-back.
That is. It's hard to have a real good game after throwing a no-hitter because it kind of lingers and you start thinking about it, right?
Right.
You say, well, I threw a no-hitter the last time, I wonder what's going to happen. And then if you don't get your mindset right and pay attention to business, that's what was amazing with Santana, the game after he pitched the no-hitter,
right,
that he threw 9 innings. And to me, he was just as tough in the, you know, that game as he was when he threw the no-hitter.
How'd you do in the game after your no-hitter?
I do not remember. I have no idea.
Lastly, looking at this trio that's going in, you know, Weaver, Heron, Santana, How do you think that will hold up, and how do you see this race with Texas shaping up?
Well, you got three pretty good pitchers. Well, three dominant pitchers, right?
Right.
Now, don't forget about Chatwood and don't forget about Panero, because if something happens to one of your three, you're going to have one of those guys. And you can't just, you know, put them on the back burner.
We're talking about the race with Texas. How do you see it shaping up?
Well, you know, as long as we got Sos is going to find a way to win one or two more games in Texas. That's just my opinion. You know, I don't know how other people think of it. I know all the Angel organization thinks that we're going to beat out Texas in the end, and I think so. Because we have the three good starting pitchers, plus we got Chatwood, plus we got Panero, and you know, he's pitched not up to par the last few games, but if he gets going again, we've got four. And you know, you've got your pick, you know, when you play a 5-game series, you got your pick from 3 or 4 guys.
How do you like these youngsters that are shaping up? You know, Trumbo, Borges, all those guys. I mean, Trumbo, there's already talk about Rookie of the Year.
Well, if he don't win Rookie of the Year, there's something wrong. If he keeps going, right? And I think he will, because he's getting his feet on the ground. He's had his feet on the ground for a little while now, and he just keeps hitting home runs. And a lot of them are pretty long distance, right?
Right.
Like the one he hit last night. And, you know, the other guys, you can't get better sitting on your butt on the bench. You have to play the game to get better. Any game. Right. You can't get better sitting on the bench.
Lastly, what's your take on what happened in Detroit? I mean, did Ibar break an unwritten rule? What would be your response?
What would be my response? Back when I played, if he bunted in the 8th inning, I could see it both ways. I would drill him the next time up, right? Now, that's my response.
And that's a different era.
Right, but I've heard the other way. Now we're only down 3 runs. If he gets on, somebody hits it out, it's 3-2. And to me, I think he did it just to spite Verlander because of the things that happened to Weaver. And I was kidding a guy the other day, I said, you know, if I was Weaver, I'd have probably just went ahead and drilled him, because you're going to get thrown out either way, right? If you throw it up in the end or, you know, hit him, you're going to get tossed anyway. But the one thing that I want people to understand, I have never met a pitcher in the time I played or the time that I've talked to pitchers and stuff around here that they intentionally throw at somebody's head. They'll throw it up in the end. But not to hit it. Most people do not realize if you want to throw at somebody's head and hit him, you throw it right behind his head, because the first thing he does is flinch backward.
Right.
You know, you can get out of the way of it up and in, but don't tell Pujols that because he got drilled last night.
I know, again, it was a different era, different rules, different way of playing. But when you did send a purpose pitch or you wanted to hit someone, where were you going for?
Either the kneecap or the ribs, you know.
So, do you think this is something that can stick with the team, or that they'll get beyond?
Well, the thing about it, if you get to Detroit again, it'll be in the playoffs. And you don't want anything to happen that's going to spoil your chances in the playoffs, right?
Right.
So I think as of now, it's over and done with, probably until next season. I don't think Weaver will forget the little dance. What's his name, Guion Dunn?
Yeah.
I wouldn't forget that either, you know. Ordonez, you know, he might have been looking, maybe it's going foul or fair, you know, but what Guion done, no.
No. All right, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
You're welcome.